If the U.S. dropped interest rates, increased the money supply, and lowered the prices of goods and services all at the same time, what would happen? There are more digital goods now, every single time. Not an exception. It's one of the most reliable trends in the history of modern money. The system gets liquidity. It costs less to buy things. People invest money to get a return. Risky assets go through the roof. That's why I think this whole situation is one of the best things that could happen in the digital asset world. This is exactly the kind of macro setting you want to see if you've been waiting for XRP to really move, especially when you look past 2026. One of the main questions people have about the oil situation is this, which I think is a very good question. How long will it really take for U.S. companies to start making a lot of this oil? How long until it hits the market and starts to have a big effect on prices and supply? Since none of this happens overnight, it goes without saying. The truth is that Venezuela already has a lot of infrastructure for oil in place. People often forget that important point. A lot of the work has already been done. A lot of it is out of date and hasn't been used in years, and a lot of it needs major repairs, but the base is there. That makes a big difference in the timing. There won't be years of wait before production starts if Trump acts quickly on this, which I think he will do based on his past actions. The time frame is probably months. There are only a few months left until production levels hit millions of barrels per day, the most. And that's just the start. As soon as the infrastructure is updated, made more modern and fully functional, work doesn't just stop, it speeds up. As new operations start up and old sites are brought back to life, output could grow very quickly over time. This is about big oil companies in the U.S. Big oil companies like Chevron, Exxon, and others are already getting ready to do business in Venezuela. Small businesses like these have the money, technology, and know-how to grow quickly. Because when they do, things quickly get very serious. The amount of oil that Venezuela could produce each day is not in the hundreds of thousands of barrels. It's a lot more than that. It's tens of millions of barrels every day, every single day. That's the size of this scale. And Trump wants that to happen because the price of oil will have to go up when the world's supply goes up by that much. In the oil markets, it turns into a real party. Prices don't just go down over time, they fall down. It's not impossible for me to believe that oil prices will drop to levels we haven't seen in years. $20 a barrel. It could be as much as $15 a barrel. We've seen it before. In the big picture, it wasn't even that long ago, even though it seems like a long time ago. It's not. It's likely been a long time since a lot of people watching this have seen oil sell for that little. But markets go through cycles, and big changes in supply can lead to very bad results. That's the exact kind of shock. Now, the change in the price of oil is just the first thing that has fallen. As I already said, oil is very important to the world economy. It affects everything: moving things, making things, farming, transportation, and energy. When the price of oil goes down, it affects everything. When oil prices go down, shipping costs go down too. When transportation is cheaper, things are also cheaper. When things are cheaper, prices go down. When inflation goes down, rates can be lowered by central banks, and lower rates mean more cash on hand. These are all the links in the chain. It's even worse when you look at this over the next 5-10 years. Analysts think that something almost unbelievable will happen once the U.S. has fully stepped up production and Venezuelan production has been improved. Some people think that oil prices might settle down at around $3 to $6 per barrel in the long run. Take a moment to think about that. When the price of a barrel of oil hits $3 to $6, the world economy changes totally. Inflation would be held down fundamentally. The cost of energy would be very small. It would be very cheap to get around. It would become much cheaper to make things. Also, you have no idea what that does to digital goods. Bitcoin mining would become totally crazy. One of the biggest prices in mining is the cost of energy. If oil and other forms of energy become that cheap, mining companies will make a lot of money and grow very quickly. Network safety gets better. Institutional involvement goes through the roof. What about XRP? When things are like that, assets related to global liquidity, payments, and financial systems do very well. This would give crypto a huge boost that you have never seen before. It wouldn't just be another bull market. This would change the way digital goods are priced around the world. People aren't ready for what would happen in that kind of macro setting. Cheap power, inflation is low, rate cuts, huge amounts of cash, global acceptance is speeding up, regulatory transparency is getting better, capital from institutions coming in. This is how income cycles that only happen once every generation start. This is the reason why what's going on now is so important. It's not about the price tomorrow. It's not about next week. It's about getting ready for these changes before they happen. For the chance is already passed by the time everyone agrees on the story. This is how it looks. And I have to say, this is going to be great. This is truly amazing. In recorded history, there have only been a few times when oil prices dropped by a large enough amount to make things even slightly similar to what we're seeing now. And every single one of those times led to huge bull runs on markets around the world. Whenever. This isn't just theory. This has happened before in the past. Even though I've already said this, it's worth going over again because some people still don't realize how powerful falling oil prices are for risk assets. When the price of oil drops sharply, funds become easier to get, prices go down, and a lot of money floods into growth and speculation markets. That's always been the way these cycles have gone. That doesn't mean that there is peace in the world's political thought, though. Not at all. Even now, there are still real problems in Venezuela. China is taking part. Russia is taking part. Everyone is putting out messages showing their power and trying to figure out where they fit in the bigger picture. But one thing is very clear, even with all the noise. The United States has a lot of power over China because of this situation. About 5% of the oil that China buys is from Venezuela. That might not seem like a big deal at first, but it's a lot more important when you look at the bigger picture. Russian oil stocks keep going down, and China is the biggest buyer of that oil. In the long run, this means that China needs to rely more and more on other providers. Venezuela is right in the middle of all of this. That dependence gives you power. In geopolitics, power is everything. Whoever controls Venezuelan oil, which has the world's biggest proven oil reserve, has a lot of power in political and economic talks around the world. That's the game going on here. It's not a coincidence. This isn't a mistake. Trump knows how to use power, and the goal of this move is to keep the U.S.'s influence strong. This is not advice about money. It's really that easy. Right now, it doesn't really matter if you agree or disagree with what's going on. We have no power over it. People need to change the way they think about that. The markets don't care what people think. They don't care about how you feel. What should happen doesn't matter to them. The markets care about the truth. This saying will always be with me because it's so true. It doesn't matter how you feel to the markets. They will do what makes sense based on the state of the world economy, the flow of cash, supply and demand, and overall economic pressure. It's not our job to argue about it. It's our job to watch it. Looking at connections and historical precedents is the smartest thing we can do. This will help us figure out how similar situations have played out in the past and place ourselves accordingly. That's it. That's the game. Reality is what you trade on, not hope, fear, or ideas. This year, you should really pay attention if you don't know how oil, geopolitics, global war, monetary policy, and XRP are all connected. These things are not different. They're deeply linked to each other. I'm going to explain that step by step as the story goes along, because 2026 is not going to be like any other year. This year is going to be crazy. This is the kind of year when either everyone finally gets global cycles or they get left behind. You can already see the signs. A lot of people haven't looked at them yet. If you want to know how I think about these markets every day, things I can't fully talk about on YouTube, make sure you join the group. That's where I post my thoughts, positioning, and plan as they change in real time.
Iron ore has an effect on manufacturing, building, and infrastructure. Reserves, monetary policy, and insurance markets are all affected by gold and silver. Technology, military, and energy storage are all affected by rare materials. When large amounts of these resources are taken out of the ground and added to global supply lines, prices go down for everything. To say it again, lower prices for goods and services mean lower inflation. That's the main idea here. The US has every reason to lower the prices of goods and services around the world. More than anything else, they want prices to go down. They want the money rates to go down. The fastest and best way to do that without making the system less stable is to do it this way. When inflation goes down, monetary policy can be made easy. When monetary policy is eased, cash comes in. And the fuel that makes assets like XRP move very quickly is liquidity. That's why what we're seeing now isn't just another story. It's an important change. Big changes like these only happen once every generation. They will help those who understand them early on the most when they happen. It's not about hype. It has to do with placement. As this plays out, it becomes hard to ignore the link between falling oil prices, falling inflation, rate cuts, and rising prices for digital assets. XRP is right in the middle of that point where two roads meet. Let's be honest about this. The United States has a huge debt issue. It's not about politics. This is not a guess. It's just math. Because they have so much debt, there are only a few real ways for them to handle it. They've always gone the same way in the past. Cut loan rates and make more money. That is the plan. They've always done that. There's no reason to think that things will be different this time. That's the only real choice they have. You won't believe how great that is for you, especially if you have XRP. They make a huge amount more stuff. They sell oil all over the world. The US makes money. The price of oil goes down. The rate of inflation drops. That's about as simple as it gets. Now, some people in the crypto community have said that XRP will go up if the price of oil goes up. This is very important to me. That claim is not backed up by any logical or historical proof. When US companies take out the world's largest oil reserve, oil costs don't go through the roof. In fact, it makes things worse. When production goes up, prices go down. And in the past, falling oil prices have been the cause of growing markets for digital assets, not the other way around. You can look at the numbers again. In the last video, I went into more depth about it. At every big time when oil prices dropped significantly, risky assets like crypto did very well. Inflation goes up, central banks tighten up, and risky assets lose value when oil prices go up. So, the idea that if oil prices went up, XRP prices would also go up doesn't make sense. That's much more likely to happen. Oil prices will keep going down. This is exactly what XRP and other digital assets need to do well. But Venezuela's problems aren't just about oil. Along with huge amounts of gold, silver, diamonds, quartz, granite, and other important natural materials, Venezuela also has about 4 billion tons of iron. There are a lot of these resources. These are huge reserves that affect whole companies around the world. You can bet that the US is looking at more than just oil now that they have overall control and power. For XRP, digital assets do best in places where there is a lot of risk. This is not a guess. This is a pattern that has been seen many times in the economy as a whole. And learning about changes like this early on is the best way to get ahead of the crowd. That's why there are groups like the 100x Club. Members get special stock alerts every week for possible 100x opportunities, crypto insider alerts, a millionaire mindset to help build wealth that lasts a lifetime, top 1% positioning strategies, and real-world frameworks that will help you 100x your wealth over time. All of it is linked in the comment that was pinned. Let's go back to what's really going on here, as this is very important. There is no doubt that the price of oil will go down if the United States can make millions more barrels of oil and ship that oil all over the world. This is how supply and demand work. Prices go down when production goes up and demand stays about the same. And Donald Trump wants that to happen. Trump wants prices to go down always. Oil is what keeps the world economy going. Transporting goods, making things, making energy, and powering supply chains all use it. Almost everything else's price goes down when the price of oil does. Everything gets cheaper. Food, transportation, goods made, homes. Inflation will go down faster this way and the economy won't crash. That's the reason this moment is so important. I want to play this Trump speech because it makes the plan very clear now that the US has control over this huge Venezuelan asset. Trump said, "We're going to have our very large US oil companies, which are the biggest in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars fixing the badly broken oil infrastructure, and then the country will start making money." You already know everything you need to know from that sentence. A lot of US companies go to Venezuela. They fix up and update the oil facilities,